Happy Sunday. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes here to sign on and join me. I know it's 5 p.m. my time, but many of you are on the East Coast where it's 7, hopefully finishing up your dinner. Mine is after book club. So, give you guys a second. Let's make sure we're live in the group. And I can say that I'm really excited to get this book club started. This is our second book. We just finished The Loving Diet by Jessica Flanagan, and that was really fun to read together and to be able to have just like real discussion around thoughts that come up as you're reading. So it's really, I think actually Amy wrote about this in her introduction where she just wrote that it's really wonderful to have like a tribe of people to be able to read along with and share your thoughts. You know, you may agree or disagree with what she writes, and it's fun to talk about. So welcome. I see some of you guys hopping on here now. Welcome, welcome. And it looks like we're live in group. So, I know many of you are new as well. So we just finished, a month or two ago, we finished The Loving Diet by Jessica Flanagan. And I see some familiar names here, but many new names as well. So if you're new, or if you were with us last time, just say hi, let me know you're here. You can say where you're listening from this evening, and if you're new or if you joined us for our first round of book clubs. This is just round 2, and I hope to keep it rolling as well. The group was polled on what book we wanted to read next, so this wasn't necessarily my choice. It was all of our choice to start to read this book next. Hi, parties. So, really excited to jump in today and get talking, and I just wanted to share with you guys too that the author of our book here, How to Heal Yourself When No One Else Can, Amy, she saw that we are reading her book and she's excited about it, so she actually wants to join us. She wants, she basically said she would do anything, but I'm hoping to invite her to I'm thinking towards the end, maybe when we've read the book and we have more questions for her. Sorry, the sun is going down here. There we go. To have her come live in the group and we can ask her questions. So if you guys have any other ideas of how you'd like her to participate, please do let me know. But she's willing to join us, so I think that's really cool, and she's excited that we're reading her book, and I'm excited that she noticed. Let's just close these all the way. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Hello, I am watching from Calgary, Alberta. Couldn't make it to the first book club, so very excited to have my Sundays free for this one. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Heather from San Francisco. Michelle. Michelle's new, joining the group from an attic in Detroit, Michigan. That's actually funny, Michelle, because that's where I lived before. I live in Colorado now, but I was living in Detroit on the 3rd floor of my best friend's house. Wasn't quite an attic, but it was cozy. Noelle says, Amy is so great. Maybe she can do a guided session for us. She is so great at that. Oh, that's a wonderful idea, Noelle. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas, I need to follow up with her, and it seems like the sky is the limit. So what do you want? And let's ask for it and involve her in this discussion and this journey as we read the book together. So keep on letting me know who's here, where you're listening from today, and if you have any ideas on how we want to incorporate and involve the wonderful Amy, author of the book. Wendy says, hi Sarah, round 2 from nearby Seattle. Awesome. Thanks for joining, Wendy. Thanks for joining us last time too. All right, so I should introduce myself just briefly. I'm Sarah Small, if you're wondering who the heck is talking to you right now. I am the founder and creator of Autoimmune Tribe, a community for women with autoimmune disease, and it's a separate Facebook group and just community online. I also coach women one-on-one who have autoimmune disease or things like narcolepsy or migraines or chronic fatigue. And I love what I do, and I love bringing people together like all of you to be able to have conversations about things like healing. So, yay! This week we read the introduction, chapters 1 and 2, but I'd like to hear from all of you where you actually are in the book, right? So that was just kind of the suggested reading, but comment below and let me know how far you are into the book. I know that some of you commented today and said you just ordered it or it's going to be here tomorrow, so you probably haven't started yet. But if you have, let us know where you are in the book. My book has been through a lot of traveling with me and some water damage, but still definitely readable. And interested too, who's read the book before and who just ordered it and is starting for the first time. So I've already read this book. I read it last August, I believe. And so I'm reading it again because it was a wonderful book to read in the first place. But I think you also gain something different every time you do read a book. And I get to read it with all of you this time, which is even more fun. So Michelle says, I'm a little bit into chapter 2. Wonderful. Yeah, let me know where you are. I actually have a lot of questions for you guys today. We should probably get started on that. And I think we're probably only going to get through the intro in chapter 1. So we'll probably wait to talk about chapter 2 and 3 next week. Okay? So, also for any of you who are new, how this works a little bit is I get your fingers ready because I want you to have more of a conversation with me. I don't want to talk at you the whole time. These usually are around 30 to 45 minute long conversations, and I'm just going to present questions to you so that we can be able to share ideas and brainstorm and talk about what we agree about and what we disagree about, what we love and what we don't love. Noelle says, hi Alex, Wendy's first time reading the book. Noelle says, just finishing chapter 3 and in Amy's group/course. So I've read it before and rereading it while I'm doing the modules on the course. That's amazing. Noelle, would you mind sharing that, maybe a link to that for some of us who might be interested? Wendy says she's on chapter 6 and Heather says chapter 4, first time reading. Susan, hi. I just got the book early March and have gone through most of it. Okay, so yeah, you're a little bit ahead. No problem. It's we're just going to talk about, in chronological order, the book, usually 2 chapters a week. So I can put that into more of a schedule for you guys if you like to be organized. But that's what we did for the Loving Diet, and it worked out really well. We just did 2 chapters every week and wasn't too overwhelming, wasn't too much to read, but some people did get really far ahead, and you can still have conversation about what you've already read. Okay, so since we're already 9 minutes in here, let's get started. I first wanted to ask you guys what healing modalities you have tried before, okay, and what is new to you. So this book is a lot about energy medicine, and she talks about how she's going to talk us through and explain to us the thymus test and tap, EFT or tapping, the emotional freedom technique, what's called the sweep, chakra tapping, and the 3 hearts method. So are any of these things modalities, healing methods that you guys have tried before? Are they completely new to you? And then maybe just energy medicine in general. Have you tried any sort of energy medicine, whether it was with Amy or outside of that? And what has that experience been like for you? Noelle says, Amy is launching the 2nd semester of the course in June with 48 new guided sessions and live webinars and all that, so that will be exciting. This is a link. Thank you for sharing, Noelle. That is amazing. It sounds wonderful. Is there, I'm assuming there's a cost to it. Is there a cost you can share with us as well? 48 guided sessions. That's amazing. And I love the idea of having her coming on and maybe doing one with us. There's I think there's 137 people in this group. Some of you are never going to see this video, and some people are never going to show up, but I think it's still amazing that there's 137 people who are at least interested in healing themselves. All right, so let me know what healing modalities you've tried, what's new to you, are any of the things that she's going to talk us through stuff you guys have heard about, or is it just you're excited and it's all new, right? For me, I when I did read the book the first time, it was almost all new. I had done some like chakra work because I teach yoga. I'm a certified yoga teacher, so I know a lot about the chakras, but more in the context of yoga and not necessarily healing. So I loved the thymus test and tap, which obviously we haven't learned yet, but that was like one of my favorites that she does teach. Stephanie, I do not have any experience with energy therapies. I have briefly read about tapping and have some reservations, but I don't mean any disrespect, Sarah, because I know that's something you use. It is. Yeah, no problem. And I understand the reservations too. I think energy medicine, at least for me, I was a biology major in college and like very like science and like experiment oriented, and that's why for me, when I maybe I'm skeptical about something, that I always just try it and try to do it with as much of an open mind as possible, and then kind of experiment on my own body to see what happens, and then I can say this is for me or this is not for me, and move forward with other healing modalities if that doesn't work. But I understand the reservations, right? But at the same time, the more open-minded you can be going into it, the better, because it might be an amazing healing tool for you. Noelle says, I have done EFT before reading the book. I've had energy work done by a person, but not healing myself. Yeah, Noelle, actually, that was sort of similar to what I was experiencing. I had done a lot of energy healing with a energy healer, and she did a lot of different healings on me, like past lives and chakra balancing and Akashic record reading, etc. So I had worked with a practitioner, and then this was like, oh my gosh, I can empower myself to be able to do not all of that, but some of the things that Amy lays out in the book, which is really, I felt really empowered by that. I'm also like you, done EFT and some chakra clearing meditations, but that's about all. Beautiful. Heather, brand new to energy medicine. I've tried meditation, but these are all new techniques to me. I'll admit I'm a skeptic, but I'm all for it if it works. Yeah. I have a tapping training I sold a while back, and it's now it's still for sale on my website. It's $11. Not trying to sell to you guys, but I remember as I was putting that training together about how to tap, and it was muscle testing too, muscle testing and tapping, that the first time, and I talk about this, the first time I actually did it and it like worked, I felt like, is Alex still on? I know she felt this way too. It's like you have a freaking superpower. It's like so incredible. Not everyone can muscle test in the same way. Like they might be testable in one way and not in another way. However, once you find a way that you are testable, it's really, really cool. So get excited for what she's about to teach us. Wendy, I've tried tapping, muscle testing, have done Reiki and chakra work, all good. I like the idea of chanting that she discusses later. Yeah, she talks about that in chapter 2, I think. And I kind of lost my chanting practice. Does anyone have a chanting practice? I'd love to hear that. I did it a lot when I was in teacher training for yoga, like 8 years ago, and throughout yoga in general, but have come back to my chanting practice a little bit more in the last just couple months, and it's so just like freeing, really, really fun to do, even though it's a really like, I feel really vulnerable when I chant. I don't know about you guys, but I do not have a good voice and I don't want anyone to hear me, so I mostly do it alone. But once I like allow myself to surrender to it and actually do it and just not give two F's about it, then it becomes really empowering and freeing. Hi, Shelly. Welcome. Okay, so next question. So you guys already said where you're calling or listening from today. I'd also love to know if you do struggle specifically with autoimmune disease, because that's mostly my community and this is an autoimmune book club, but it doesn't mean you have to have autoimmune disease to be here, because this is not about autoimmune disease, it's just about healing. So do you have autoimmune disease or not? And if not, what are some of the other things that you struggle with? Or what is your biggest struggle right now? So let me know, what is your biggest struggle right now? And if you feel comfortable sharing what autoimmune disease is, you may be struggling with as well. Ruth from Coopersville, Michigan. Hi, I am also from Michigan. I have a freckle from where I'm from. You guys see that? In the mitten. From East Lansing. All right, I skipped some here. Shelly, I'm in yoga teacher training and we have been learning Kundalini chanting. Yeah, Shakti Rise, that's amazing. Corinne, right? Corinne, am I saying that right? Haha, yeah, I mostly like to do it in my car or at home if I'm alone. Yes, me too. Shelly, you live in Royal Oak? That's amazing. I just moved from Detroit, but I spent a lot of time in Royal Oak and Ferndale before I moved out to Colorado. Stephanie, yeah, that makes sense. I'm definitely open to learning about more about tapping and other energy therapies. Yeah, I think if you just keep an open mind about it and just go in and you're like, you know what, like the worst thing there's not really a worst thing that could happen. The best thing that could happen is it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? So go for it. Corrine, thank you. I appreciate you correcting me. Mary says, hi, I'm from New Hampshire. Wonderful. So guys, let me know, what is your biggest struggle right now? And I'm assuming that you have a struggle if you're reading this book. You want to heal something, right? Like something is going on in your life that needs healing, that needs nurturing, right? And for me, I know some of you have heard my story too many times, but I started with being diagnosed with stomach migraines, and in 7th grade, it was the year my parents got divorced, and was experiencing a lot of emotional stress. And then in high school, my stomach migraines got better, but my fibromyalgia kicked in, and I didn't know it was fibromyalgia. I just went to 17 doctors by the time I was 17, feeling like a crazy person, and then finally was diagnosed with fibro, which is basically chronic pain, and your brain like rewires itself to tell it that pain is a normal state to be in. So it was hard, and then yoga helped a lot. But then I had a ton of digestive issues, which led me to learn that I had celiac disease, autoimmune disease, and that has led me along a much further journey of inflammation and fatigue and thyroid imbalance and hormone imbalance and self-healing. So let's see what you guys are saying. Noelle, oh yes, I love Kundalini yoga mantras. Chanting is built in along with breath and asana. I practice Kundalini every morning. Beautiful. Every morning. Yes. Mary, I have done EFT, Eden Energy Medicine. Wonderful. Heather, I have Crohn's disease and anxiety that goes with it, of course. Yes, I didn't even mention that. That is like a huge part of my story, as well as suffering with anxiety and panic attacks. And the tapping, actually, the thymus tapping was one of my like core methods for getting through a panic attack, actually. I've learned additional healing methods now, but that was really powerful. Mary Ellen Darcy, I have Hashimoto's, yes, thyroid disease. Wendy, rheumatoid arthritis, hypothyroidism, adrenal fatigue, leaky gut, histamine intolerance, etc. Yeah, I like how you just, at that point, it's just like etic, right? It goes on and on, which is not funny, but it's just that a lot of these things are related to each other. And when we have one autoimmune disease, that you are more likely to develop additional, and that's why you want to get control of the things like the leaky gut and the adrenal fatigue, etc. Stephanie, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and my biggest issues are fatigue and GI distress. Technically not autoimmune, but so much is unknown about my illness, so who knows. I'm also from Pittsburgh, forgot to mention that. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Stephanie. That's the thing about autoimmune too, is that many of you here might be like, I feel like crap, and I have insomnia, or I have fatigue, or I get migraines, but you haven't been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. However, it could very well be autoimmune disease, and it's just you haven't really found that specific answer. And Amy talks about that in her trying to figure out she had Lyme. Like, just not having a diagnosis for so long and going through this whole process that I think many of you can relate to of trying to figure it out, trying to feel the best you can without really knowing what you're dealing with or how to heal, which is why self-healing is so beautiful. Ruth, ovarian cancer-free survivor, amazing. Fulfillment coach, chapter leader with healingstrong.org, and really digging into how to heal from emotional strongholds. Amy's book is a go-to for me. Yeah, I love, that's a lot of the work I do too, is more of the mental emotional healing aspect of autoimmune disease versus the medical side of it. And I think it's just as powerful, and you really need both to be able to heal, which was my experience in my healing process. Was it's like you had tried everything that I knew, right? Like the science and the nutrition, and I still didn't feel better. And that's when I had to dig into the emotional work, which she gives us so many tools for. Shelley, hypothyroid, Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, HLA, B12 positive, B27 positive, anxiety and panic attacks. Yeah, Shelley, I'd love to hear more about your anxiety and panic attacks, because it's something I still work through. I also have EBV, Epstein-Barr virus. Curious, that was actually one of my questions. It's a little bit lower down here, but does anyone else know of co-infections that they have that have gone along with their autoimmune issues or issues in general? Mary Ellen says digestive issues, brain fog, arthritis. Noelle, I have Ehlers-Danlos and postural, or you're going to challenge me here, orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I'm being evaluated for celiac now. There's some other miscellaneous stuff, but those are the biggies. Yeah, that's just like I said about Wendy, right? Which is that it gets to a point where you're just like, yeah, oh, and also I have migraines. Oh, yeah, and I forgot I also have this. And I have asthma too, because your list just goes on and on of symptoms, especially when you're still being evaluated for something. Ruth, learning a lot about body's lack of nutrients and chronic illness. Yeah, Ruth, what came to mind when I just read that was like malabsorption issues too, when you have leaky gut and you aren't able to, maybe you're getting, putting into your mouth all the protein you need for a day, or all the magnesium or potassium you need for a day, but that your body's not actually absorbing it because of leaky gut or illness. Ruth, this conversation reminds me of the book Medical Medium and Dr. Bradley Nelson's emotional code and body code work. Yeah, that was almost the book we were going to read. We were almost going to read Medical Medium next. We ended up picking this one, but very much to do with energy medicine and intuitive, your own intuition guiding your healing process. And I think, and I advocate for everyone who's struggling with illness to build their healthcare team and build that tribe. And so that you are, I heard this recently in a book, I think it was in Heal Your Mind, a different book. The author wrote that be the CEO of like your medical care, right? Like you are the CEO, or you're in charge, right? Like you're in charge of that story. And I know that when I was going through all of my diagnoses, that I just, was at the will of whatever they were telling me, because I thought doctors were just so smart and they knew everything. And then I finally empowered myself to like be able to say no or ask questions and not just take what they said and leave, right? And I think that's really empowering too, when you're able to like build your people, your support team, and also know that like you're paying them, right? Like you're in charge of this situation. Shelley, healing the emotional aspect is huge for me. Ruth, yes. Yeah, and I think that that's what's so beautiful about this, is it's kind of like the missing piece for many of us, or maybe because you might have your naturopath or your functional medicine doctor or your MD or your DO, and they're not talking about stuff like this, right? Unless you have a very like alternative doctor, which would be amazing. But this is a beautiful piece to be able to bring together with that aspect of your healing. Okay, back to questions. So thank you guys for commenting so much. It's always so much fun. Okay. Oh, so she also wrote in the back of the book, there's some, there's book club discussion questions. I don't know if you guys, she mentioned it in the introduction, I think. But there are questions that I think would be better. I mean, there are questions for like after reading the entire book. So they'll be more appropriate as we get towards the end of the book. But I did like the first one here because you don't have to have read anything to answer this. And it says, what are your greatest fears around healing? So I'm curious to hear from all of you. What are your greatest fears around healing? What's holding you back? What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? What are you skeptical about? Like some of us have already owned up to that, right? Like, I'm a little skeptical, or I have reservations about this. But what is your greatest fear around healing? Shelley says, I've made a chart of my healthcare team and look at it at least once a week to help me feel grounded and comforted in terms of feeling supported and understood. What a great idea, Shelley. Yeah, I think that's really important and wonderful to be able to know that you do have all that support, right? That's why I created Autoimmune Tribe, is because I felt alone, felt like no one understood me. I felt like no one had experienced what I was going through, and I was just like sitting in my Chicago apartment alone, feeling crazy. And then it was, this kind of epiphany happened where it was like, wait, and like, this is not right. There's so many people who have different story from you, but they can still empathize with you, and they can support you, and they can offer you advice or just like a virtual hug, and sometimes that's all you need. So Michelle says, the greatest fear is that once I'm healed, then I won't have any excuses. Michelle, that's powerful. It's really wonderful that you have the awareness of that, right? That maybe whatever you're struggling with is like a little bit of an escape for you, right? That you can use it as an excuse for lots of things in life. But yeah, so then once you're healed, you won't have excuses. However, I like to live by the belief that we're always healing. So you could think about it in that way too, where we're always healing and we're always learning and growing if you choose to, right? And so that there's always going to be something to work on. So the more I get excited about it, I'm like, okay, like this is an opportunity to improve myself or improve my life or be better to the people around me. So I think we're always healing. Oh, the comments are rolling in. Heather, greatest fear is that I still have to do this for life. There is no quick or one-time fix. Yeah, she wrote about that too. And I think that I really appreciated that she wrote that, because you can't just read this book and I mean, she's talking about how to heal yourself in the title, right? But at the same time, she's not saying that once you read this book, you're healed for life. She's saying that it needs to become a practice, that you need to be consistent and continue noticing when the discomfort comes up and the uncomfortable emotions or the negative emotions that might be perceived as bad start to rumble up, that we now have the tools to be able to know what to do with them, but that it's not a quick fix and it's not really ever over. Which I understand how that can be a fear too, right? Because it's like this is something you're like committing to for life. So that's why I like to make it ritual. I like to make it something that's a ritual and joyful for me, and like a gratitude practice versus like one of those things you put on your to-do list that you really don't want to do. Okay. Corrine, I'm actually scared to do the work. I have a bad habit of getting in front of the TV once I'm home from work. I'd rather numb myself with that than actually do the work. Yeah, so fear is doing the work. I'm gonna guess here that you probably know where the deeper fear is there. If not, have you tried to figure out where the deeper fear is, right? So why are you actually afraid to do the work, right? Are you afraid of the actual emotional experience, like tears, the pain? Are you afraid of truth, right? What's the deeper fear? Ruth, my greatest fear is that no matter how much I learn and apply to lifestyle change, that it still won't be enough. Oh, got to get on that limiting belief. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the limiting beliefs that I had to work through in my healing was I'm not enough, and remind myself, Louise Hay, if you guys know Louise Hay, author, and she's like the founder of Hay House Publishing. Anyways, she does a lot of affirmation work, and through her learning and teachings, I've put affirmations into my life, and one of them is I'm enough, I am enough, I am enough, I am so freaking enough, I am enough, I'm enough. But it still takes like so much practice to really ingrain that in my mind. Michelle, I'm from Southborough, Massachusetts. I have ulcerative colitis. I struggle great with making smart choices for my body in social situations with friends, and making time for me to cook and meditate. Sent without me finishing it. Sorry for typing it. No problem, Michelle. We're all typing fast. I told you guys, get your fingers ready. So, struggle with making choices that for my body in social situations with friends, right? So that I empathize with that, and mine is like there's always a cheese plate everywhere, and I freaking love cheese, but I'm allergic to almost all cheese. It makes my tongue go numb, which is a little bit of a reason to stay away from it. Also, dairy just doesn't agree with me, but social situations are always the hardest, and I see it there, and I have to just remind myself over and over and over again about how I love my body and I want to make healing choices for my body. Corrine, I'm going to rephrase. I used to, emphasis on used to, rather watch TV than do the work. Okay, beautiful. So I think what you're saying is that like you're ready to do, like you're ready to dive in now, or you are diving in and you're ready to do the work or doing the work. Stephanie, my greatest fear is that I won't be able to heal, which can probably be self-sabotaging. Yeah. Corrine, I can totally relate to that. Yeah, the pain and tears. Love Louise Hay. Affirmations have helped me too. Yeah, I love the science behind it. Again, I'm pretty woo-woo person. Like, I love crystals and essential oils, and my hair's purple blue, right? But at the same time, I come from a very like science background, and I love to read about the power of belief in the mind and the way affirmations are like rewiring your brain in a very science way, right? Shelley says, my awareness has been that if I'm totally well, I will then have to speak my truth to people instead of saying no. Setting boundaries verbally can be challenging for me. Yeah. I used to be a yes person, a yes to everything person. I still think being a yes person isn't necessarily bad, right? But you're saying yes because you want to say yes, because you want opportunities and adventure and joy in your life, versus saying yes because you feel obligated or you just don't have strong enough boundaries to be able to say no. One of my oil friends and mentors has a group on Facebook on all about setting boundaries, and it's really powerful. Totally yes. Okay, so this actually this question, what are your greatest fears around healing? I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, and I wanted to, it relates well here. So Amy gets really vulnerable, right? And she shares her, this is in chapter 1, she shares her list of things that contributed to her illness and suppressed her from being the light and living the light. And she includes fear, relationships, challenging herself, self-criticism, and self-sacrifice. So some of the fears you guys just mentioned, I think, are also probably in this list. So I'd like to encourage you, if you haven't already, she talks about it, maybe you did this when you were reading, and she says to use a notebook as you're reading, which I think is also really helpful. I did that when I read it, and I had so many notes to take down. And it's just good to have a kind of like when you have a food journal. If you guys have food journaled, it's like your point of reference, and you're able to compare and be able to see changes. So I really highly recommend you guys do have a notebook as you're reading. But if you didn't do this already, I just encourage all of you right now or later tonight to brainstorm your own list of the things that have contributed to your illness on that emotional level, and maybe suppressed you from being your best self. So again, she says fear, relationships, challenging herself, self-criticism, and self-sacrifice. I thought about this earlier today as I was thinking about what we were going to chat about, and so I'll share those with you right now. I wrote down fear, which she listed as her first one as well, and my fear manifests as survival mode, where it's like this constant worrying or expecting the worst. I grew up the oldest of 4 children, and in a family that was divorced, and so I felt like I had to always be on the lookout for what disaster was happening next. And my siblings have also struggled a lot with mental health and addiction, and my younger brother committed suicide. So it's been this constant just expecting the freaking worst thing to happen. And that's not a way to live, and it is very much used to put me into survival mode, which is bad for your body on a physical level, and just so much fear. And so that's something that I have been able to work through and forgive myself for, but it still rumbles up. There's still fear. I'm making my own business right now, and it's scary every day, but it's also very exciting. And then let me just catch up on your notes here before I go on. Shelly says, my awareness has been that if I'm totally I already read that one. Sorry. Susan, page 23, becoming the true you. I think this is a big fear for people. What if we don't like who we really are? Yeah, that's really powerful, Susan. I think that is something that is scary. And so in my list here, that again, the question is, what are the things that have contributed to your illness on an emotional level or suppressed you from being your greatest and healthiest self? One of the ones I wrote was a lack of self-love and self-criticism. And again, she wrote it as self-criticism. To me, it manifests as not feeling like enough, which I just mentioned before too. Not good enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, right? Just like this constant picking at yourself of critiquing and judging yourself. And I think that learning how to love yourself is something that they should teach in elementary school, right? That I never learned. But then I realized as an adult that I didn't love myself, and I had better freaking figure it out and learn how to love myself. And now, like, one of my sacred spaces and times for reflection and self-love is in the bathtub. And I took baths when I was like a little kid, and then I didn't take baths for years and years and years. And then I started taking Epsom salt baths for my eczema and like my skin. I have a lot of skin issues and vitiligo and melasma on my face. And so Epsom salt baths have been just really healing. And now those are like, when I'm like, I'm just like really down on myself today, or I'm not loving myself today, I go to the bath, and for whatever reason, like the vulnerability of being naked is really powerful for me to just like be in love with myself. Okay. I hear you, soul sister. Thanks, Shelly. Ruth, we can always change. Yes. I love the quote. I don't know if it's a quote actually. I'm not sure who said it, but change is the only constant. There will always be change. You never know what's going to happen next. You never know what your last day on this earth is going to be, right? Change is always happening. We're always evolving and changing. And I think that can be really hopeful. Heather, I highlighted pretty much her entire story. Yeah, right? You're like going through and you're like, okay, I'm just going to highlight the whole book. Her mental state sounded identical to mine. My life runs on fear that someone won't like me, will get mad at me, is annoyed with me, that I'm not good at my job. I don't know how to not care about what other people think. I haven't been able to let go. Yeah, my brother was a lot like that, Heather, where he, like, it was a constant, and I do this too, a constant second guessing of what you said, and like leaving a conversation and being like, I hope I was perceived the right way, or I hope they didn't take that the wrong way. And what I saw in him was he would go home and he would think about it for hours and keeps, like getting in such this like dark space in his mind. And I think the more we were able to communicate ourselves and just be really truthful and honest in the first place, it makes it a little bit easier, but also just to be grounded. And I do that through a lot of energetic work, is like grounding myself. And the more grounded I am, the easier it is to not care about some of those things and let them go a little bit more easily. I love that quote too, Sarah. I had it written on a Post-it note on my desk at my former job. Yeah, we're constantly evolving. The Talmud, am I saying that right, Kathy? The Talmud says change is our only certainty. Yes, maybe that's where it comes from. I know I've seen it float around, but I think that can invoke a lot of hope into us. We're running out of time. Okay, so keep brainstorming. You can use this as homework if you want, or share with us now. What are the things that have contributed to your illness or suppressed you from being just like your most beautiful freaking self? And I said fear, and I talked about lack of self-love. Another one for me is feeling responsible for everyone, which can lead to a lot of self-sacrificing and feeling like you have to fix and you have to be in control, and anything outside of control is way too scary. And one of the quotes or ways of thinking that opened me up to being okay with not having control of everything is that when we release control, we open up to possibility, and you open yourself up to so many more beautiful things in life when you can just let go and realize how closed off you've been to potentially amazing things for so long. I know that's how I felt. Corrine, I totally realize it's easier said than done, but one of my therapists told me that you should only feel bad for when you intentionally hurt someone, because if it's not intentional, it's how they received what you said or did and not your intention behind it, and you can't control their thoughts. Yeah, you are only responsible for you. That's another belief that I had done through my energy work that was like infused into my body was you are only responsible for yourself. You are not responsible for everyone or anyone else around you, right? Like, you are only responsible for yourself. And I think it's important to remember too that this is sort of related, right? That when you do maybe offend somebody, but don't intend to, that it might be something that they have a belief about themselves, right? Not that what you said was said with ill will. Okay. We could talk about this for so many hours. We've gone through parts of the intro in chapter 1, and there's so much more to discuss. Let's see. Let me see if there's one more question we can chat about. We actually talked about almost everything I wrote notes on. Let's see. Oh, okay, so a couple things. She talks about putting her own twist on everything, right? Like, and encouraging us to too. So like, you might read a way that she taps, and you might give it a little flair. You might change it up a little bit. And I know when I was younger that I was like so type A and like a rule follower that it was like I wouldn't even dream of putting my own flair on it, because I'd be like, it doesn't work unless I do it exactly how they told me to. And I've moved far away from that, but now I try to put my flair on everything that I do too. And so I read that and I was like, yes, like, people need to know this, people need to do this, and realize that just because she wrote it this way, I mean, it's powerful, right? But that you can change it so that it fits you and your circumstances in a really beautiful way, without being wrong. And you don't have to fit into that, those lines, right? There's not like specific rules about some of these things. So, I was going to ask you guys who is resistant to coloring outside the lines, and who does try to put themselves into this rule box, right? You can call yourself out here, because I know it's something I used to do a lot. Let's see. My phone's going to die soon too, so we're almost done. Stephanie, suppressed grief is also something I think is possibly holding me back from my healing. Yeah, and so important through your healing to bring that up and really experience it, especially if you suppressed it in the past. That's what I've learned, is that all of these feelings are just kind of like hibernating in your body, and unless you feel them and then let them release, that you're always going to feel that suppression or the grief somewhere in your body, or you'll, not that you will for sure, but some people explode, right? Like you get to this point where you're just like, I can't handle it anymore, and you cry and cry and cry. Or anger, people blow up and explode because they haven't been able to express their anger in small doses, and then they're pissed off, right? That happens in relationships a lot. All right, ladies. One more thing. Okay. She says something along the lines of, it's okay. Like she says, like, you know, people get so overwhelmed that it's like, I have to fix this and this and this, and I have this grief, and I have this anger, and I have this trauma, and I have this sadness, and this person died, and then this person died the next week, and like all these things that have happened in your life that you know you need to heal. And it's like, where do you start? And she says something along the lines of, it's okay, like that there's a lot, right? But usually there are just 3 to 5 core issues at play. So if we can figure out what those are, then everything else kind of starts to fall into place and becomes a little bit easier. Or you address your anger, and then all of a sudden 10 of your other things are actually dealt with, right? But important to actually move through them and deal with them. Ruth, I need to know the rules, and then I'm all about out of the box growth. Yeah, that's a good point, Ruth. It's like, I need someone to kind of teach me first, right? Show me the way you do it, and then I can add my own colors and be able to put my own flair on it. Beautiful. So she's going to do that for us, right? She's going to take us through all of the steps on a lot of this energy medicine. And I just encourage you guys to stay open to it. I encourage you to take a notebook, use a notebook, and write in it as you're reading. And every Sunday, bring your thoughts with you. Like, I'm going to give you guys questions, but feel free to ask questions to the group, or post them in the group beforehand or anytime, because there's a lot of people here who are reading along with you and sharing this experience, and I am so excited to get further into the book with you all. So, one announcement before we run out of time. I am hosting an at-home retreat for some women in my group. Well, there's 2 spots left if anyone wants to join us. But next Sunday, I'm hosting an at-home, so it's like an online retreat for my community, and so I won't be able to host book club next Sunday. So this is open to next Sunday and any other week. This group is not about me. It is about all of you and us as a community. So if anyone wants to host this discussion, please let me know. Comment below, send me a Facebook message, or you can email me, Sarah at autoimmunetribe.com. That's Sarah with an H. And let me know if you want to host next week. I'd love to have you. If no one does step up to the plate and wants to host next week, we'll probably just push it to like Monday night or something. And I'll try not to do that in the future, but I just have this retreat next Sunday. So that's all. I hope you guys want to chapters 2 and 3, since we didn't get to chapter 2. It would be chapters 2 and 3 that you would be reading, and then also somebody would be hosting discussion on. So if that's like totally out of someone's comfort zone, maybe it's time for you to do it. All right, lovelies. It is almost 6 o'clock here in Colorado. I wish you all love and healing, and it was so nice to meet and connect with some of you for the first time today, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting to know you better. So I will maybe see you next week. please, somebody who wants to chat. Otherwise, we'll do it on Monday, no problem. But love you all, and happy reading, and talk to you soon. Bye.